Woo woo. Oh my God. This episode's going to be so fun and so full of woo woo. Woo. Okay. So I'm saying woo woo because this episode is full of what is, called woo woo. So strap in for that. And you're also going to get some yaya, which I think I've decided is pleasure. Ben, what was that thing I said yesterday?
I don't know.
Yaya, get some choopy or something like that.
Oh, what was it?
It's because your hair looked all weird and crinkled.
Yeah, it was like Choopy gets no yaya.
Because you wanted me to scratch your head.
Yeah.
Choopy gets no yaya. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to How Come. I'm sitting here with Ben DeMarco in Portland, Oregon. Hello, Ben.
Hello, everyone.
We put Robin on a plane to Boston yesterday.
Goodbye, Robin.
Goodbye, briefly, Robin.
We'll see you in a few days.
Yeah, she's going to spend some time with some family that she's never met in Boston, which should be really cool, but like genuinely. And we had so much fun with her here in Portland. And then we'll see her in a few days in New York City for my O show, the Own-iversary.
Oh, yeah.
222. Caveat. Be there.
Saw you posted some really great comics today.
Oh, yeah. I'm revealing slowly the comics that are going to be showing up. So far it's John Marco Soresi.
Very funny.
Ooh, very funny. Usama Siddiqui.
Very funny.
Who was also on And Just Like That. Did you see that?
No.
Yep. He was playing funny loud guy on Carrie's stoop.
Oh, that's fun for him.
I know. So fun. And he'll be on our show, which is fun for me.
That's fun for everyone.
And fun for everyone.
The crowd is going to love him.
They'll love him. And Caitlin Palufo.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And
She's
Ashley
great.
Gavin.
Ooh, love those two. They are both very funny. I just saw Caitlin Palufo at the Comedy Cellar the other night.
I just saw Caitlin Palufo before you saw her the other night because we were both on Ashley Gavin's weekly show together.
Oh, that's right. That's
Sunday
right.
School. Yeah.
That's right.
It's nice getting back in the swing of stand-up.
Yeah, it's fun.
I got to open for J.R. de Guzman in Portland.
Yep, that
at
was
Helium. That was my first time out here.
First time on the Helium stage. Great job.
Yeah, he sold out his 2 shows.
Oh, yeah, he was very funny.
I hope to
very
be
charming.
able to come back and sell out some Portlands too. So
hell yeah.
Sign up for my mailing list, everybody. Go to my website, remycasimir.com or howcomepodcast.com and sign up for our mailing list too.
Yeah, get on that mailing list,
so then
everyone.
we'll let you know when we're coming to your zip codes because I want to get out. I want to see the world now.
Go on tour.
But this episode is from the beginning of Robin's trip to America.
Little Robin seeing the world.
It's us in LA doing this ranch reboot retreat with Nicoletta Heidegger from Sluts and Scholars and Ashley Manta from Canisexual, who is also there, and Lisa Reider, who you guys are going to meet today. And it is really funny because we went to this ranch reboot retreat instead of doing the live show that was planned there, which we had to cancel because of COVID, which was sad, but we got to do this retreat instead. And during the retreat, one of the parts was like this like sexual journaling part because the whole thing, it was like beginning of the year, like setting goals, like financially, sexually, spiritually, all this stuff. And in the sexual section, there was this one part where they asked us like, think about what you look like when you're like having a good time during sex and like write it down. And so I wrote it down and I said that I have my mouth open a lot, which I have not really thought about. But like when I was like sitting there thinking about it, I was like, oh yeah, I like have my mouth open a lot and I like have my tongue open and I'm always trying to lick stuff, whether it's like myself or Ben. And well, Ben, I'll just let you take away this part.
What do you mean?
Because what happened the other night when I was sleeping?
Oh, well, right. Well, she's constantly doing weird shit in her sleep, but this was a new one. But she's constantly talking and kicking and, breathing weird and sweating. And yeah, so this time she was like,
I have like night terrors.
She was sweating. Okay, we were at the ocean. We were at the coast.
Yeah, we took Robin to the coast.
We took Robin to the coast. We had just had a full day. We harvested some fresh mussels, some wild mussels.
It was unreal.
But sometimes when you eat things from the wild, you can sometimes get sick. So Remy had eaten a lot of these mussels, right? And she was sleeping, and she was sweating so profusely,
and like
talking and like having like nightmares, or what it seemed like. And I was like, oh God, I wonder if she like got sick from these mussels. So I started to shake her tried to like put my hand on her and like wake her up. And so I'd be like, Remy, like wake up. And then she'd just grab my hand and stick it in her mouth and start sucking on my fingers. I'd have to be like, no, like don't do that.
honey,
no, we're not doing this right now. This is you're bad. What's happening to you right now? Yeah, like, give me those back. No, wake up. And then she would just like smile at me and be like, and then fall back asleep and then just start sweating and twitching again. I had to wake her up like 3 different times. And each time she thought I was like trying to bang. She was like putting my whole hand in her mouth and like licking all over, kissing all over. That's usually what happens is like whenever I have to wake whenever I have to wake you up, you usually just start kissing on me.
So weird.
Yeah, like if like you're snoring or something, I'll be like, Remy, wake up. You'll be like and I'll be like, oh, thank you. Okay, now go back to sleep. Yeah.
Well, okay, because my first theory was maybe I was having like a nice dream.
Like a nice sexy dream?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But now like maybe that's just like
you're like default.
My default after a night terrorism.
Gotta put something in my mouth.
So funny.
Little weirdo.
Stop trying to bang in your sleep. Little Robin is on the other side of the store in this very little cabin.
Right.
Like, never would have done that if I was awake. Don't want to traumatize Rob. But yeah, we've had so much fun with Rob.
Yeah, we've been doing all sorts of stuff with Robin.
But she tried her first Uncrustables. Oh, we're going to have to tell you all about that.
When we're back reunited in the city.
Are you guys going to do a little recap?
Yeah, maybe. We've been vlogging. We haven't made anything. Oh, you know what we did do, though?
What?
We did Valentine's fondue.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
We'd been teasing How Cook for such a long time, and finally I was like, let's just fucking
let's just make a quick one.
Film our Valentine's
Did you put it up or take it down, or what did you do with it?
I put it up, and then Instagram made it all like loud and crazy, so if you watch it, like just turn it down. I might just repost it, though,
because it's
insane. But Valentine's fondue teaches you how to make Valentine's.
It's just teaching you how to make fondue.
Teaching you how to make fondue, which we did on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I mean, technically, you could just not say Valentine's fondue.
Yeah, I could just be like, how to make fondue.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go see it now while it's Valentine's fondue. Yeah. We may repost it.
We should repost it as just fondue with actual good sounds.
Yeah. With an actual song?
No, with actual good sound. No, my song is amazing.
Okay, yeah, because Ben did.
If you think I'm a good beatboxer, you should hear me
for
play
Ben's trumpet.
Mouth trumpet.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not as
that's
good.
What you can look forward to.
But wait, Valentine's fondue. We didn't just post to teach you how to make fondue, but also as a little teaser. Because we finally uploaded the first episode of How Cook. Well, it's actually the second episode.
Yeah.
The first episode available to you of How Cook is on patreon.com/howcome.
Yeah. And we're working on the other ones right now. There's just all sorts. Editing is just such a pain.
We got in so many fights.
And
when we shot the thing. It's just there's editing, just bring it up more.
There's editing problems. There's sound problems.
There are
Yeah. There's all sorts of problems, but we'll get it out there to you guys at some point.
Yeah.
We'll work on it a little bit this weekend.
I feel like maybe we can get it made by someone else now. Like this was in the pandemic. We were the only people working on it.
Cool. Yeah. Like we could maybe hire somebody to just could do it.
We'll just do a studio one day.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let's just do it again.
Maybe just do it. I mean, we'll see.
We'll see.
I love the initial footage. I actually want to do something with the fights someday.
Yeah, there's all
just
sorts
like
of
a series
stuff.
called Food Fights.
You know what we need is we need an editor that is completely
unbiased.
And detached from the whole thing completely.
Yeah.
And just be like, hey, make the funniest or make the best edit out of this.
Yeah, okay. So if you don't like either of us,
no, that's
you
not
don't
what I'm
care
saying.
either way.
That's not what I'm saying.
No.
I'm just saying somebody that doesn't have any stake in it.
They've always got stake in it. But yeah, That'll be great.
Yep, How Cook.
How
Coming
Cook.
out soon. Check on Patreon for delicious chicken noodle soup that me and Remy made.
New York City diner style chicken noodle soup.
Oh, yeah.
Can't wait to get back and have some.
Well, your flight
but yeah,
is in an hour.
my flight's in an hour. Then you get in like 3 days for the anniversary.
Yeah.
We'll see if he ends up performing. He might just be there for be supportive, but
Yeah.
wouldn't that be a sweet treat?
What time's the show?
9:30. Caveat.
Okay.
Is your flight that day?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see.
We'll see. I think it gets in at like 7:30
Okay.
to Newark, so it'll have to be.
Oh God, it's cutting it close.
But I'll be there. I'll make a fun little appearance. I'll be like, woohoo!
He's
Look at me.
edging us, you guys.
Oh, is that good?
Sometimes. Do you know what edging is?
Is that way? It's like what? It's like Sting.
It's. I literally said that, and we did a thing about tantra. Like I was like, everybody always thinks it's like sting and edging.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. It's like pushing yourself to about when you're about to be a good time, and then
To
stop
bust.
it. Yeah.
You think you couldn't say bust on this podcast? When it's about to be
When
that
you're
tingly fun.
When you're about to nut.
Mm-mm-mm.
When you're about to bust your load.
In a butt?
Yeah,
Yeah,
butts.
butts. Okay, I gotta edit it because you guys aren't gonna get that
Yeah.
TikTok reference.
Lou, where did farts come from?
Butts. Yeah, butts.
I have to post that on our Instagram because it's not as funny without the visual,
Right.
but it's just a baby who loves butts. Anyway, since you guys sat through that, since you choopies were so good, you choopies will get some yaya. This episode is full of yaya. And it is so fun. We are talking to Nicoletta Heidegger, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist practicing in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills. She also does equine therapy, which we're going to talk about in this. And she hosts the popular podcast Sluts and Scholars, which Charlotte and I did season 1 of the podcast. You should definitely listen to.
Oh, yeah.
We're chatting with her about this ranch reboot retreat that we did in LA. Lisa Reider was also one of the practitioners that was working that day. She is a multidisciplinary artist currently producing works between Paris and LA. And we're also talking to Ashley Manta, who was an attendee of the event, who you guys know as the Canisexual from, I think, season 3. She is an award-winning sex educator and coach that has become a sought-after authority on mindfully combining sex and cannabis as part of her Canisexual brand. She is the author of The CBD Solution, Sex, and we just had a blast with these 3. So I'm excited to tell you about our experiences. Choopies, get ready for some yaya and enjoy this episode.
Yes, have a fun time listening to Remy and Robin and
Nicoletta
and
Ashley and Lisa.
and it was so nice talking to you guys.
Oh, we missed you, Ben.
Thanks. I missed you guys too.
How come? How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna jizz.
Welcome, Nicoletta Heidegger.
Hi.
Hi. And welcome, Lisa Reider.
Wow, you got it right.
I took a chance. I was like, if Nicoletta's last name was
Yeah.
right in my head, then maybe yours is too. Maybe yours
Honestly,
was right.
I've known
too.
Lisa for years and I keep saying it differently.
Really? Because you have the EI too.
You know,
What are you going to do?
I'm just projecting people pronounce my name incorrectly. So fuck you.
You
too.
want to
I don't
spread
know.
it. Yeah. What's it called? Pay it forward.
Just spread the fuckery.
Yeah. That's why if anybody ever tells me their name and if they work at Starbucks, I'll just write something completely opposite. What did I get called at Starbucks in LA? Brenda.
You look like
Oh.
a Brenda.
She is me.
Yeah.
No, me in like 90210 vibes. Brenda, for sure.
I see it.
Glad to see you again. Thanks for having us.
Hooray! And she's in Cerulean.
Is that the color?
I literally just referenced that scene in Devil Wears Prada.
We've got our own little Andy right here.
Is that what this color is called?
I think that's Cerulean, yeah.
Yes.
Oh wow! You learn new things
That's-
every day.
Do you know-
Thank
I would have
you.
gone with blue.
But
Yeah, exactly.
no, but that's the whole point. In the Cerulean speech in Devil Wears Prada, Andy's talking about how like she's like, oh, like who cares about those two belts? They're the same.
And Meryl's like, well, what you don't know is that sweater you're wearing is not blue, it's not lapis, it's cerulean. And what you also are blindly unaware of is that in 2005, Oscar de la Renta did a cerulean line, and then I believe it was Yves Saint Laurent, and then it trickled down into some designer bargain bin where you no doubt fished it out of a barrel and you think that you chose it because you don't care about fashion, but what you don't know is that sweater was selected for you by the people in this room.
I think you've watched that. Yeah,
Wow,
too many
that
times.
was like shockingly accurate.
I might have recently watched it on a plane and also maybe did it for an audition monologue once.
Makes sense.
You were trying out for the role of Meryl Streep, but unfortunately, Meryl got it.
Yeah, Meryl got it. But it's so nice, Nicoletta and Lisa, to see you. Welcome, Ashley Manta.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Cold.
Don't even.
I'm in Seattle. No, I'm in Seattle.
Oh,
then you
okay. Then you
can.
can. Yes.
You're allowed to.
You're allowed
I
to
appreciate
even.
the permission.
Of course.
Well, the last time we were all together was in Malibu, and I was like, if she's gonna be like saying like the ocean water's cold.
No, I would not.
Robin was like, I don't miss LA, and I was like, rude.
Yeah, that is fucking rude, Robin. What the fuck? We had a great time.
She's just loving New York because she's never been here. At least it was her second time in LA, so it was like, but it was first time in Malibu.
Yeah, I thought we showed you a lovely time.
It was the most loveliest of
great.
times.
It was amazing. LA was amazing. I'm just glad to be in the cold because I left summer for winter and I got to LA and it was hotter than New Zealand. And I was like, can you not? Mm-hmm. That's why I'm vibing New York.
But LA was so fun with you. We would not have had as good of a time if we had not happened upon, or even Nicoletta, if you had not seen that we were in LA and reached out and you were like, yeah, we have this epic retreat going on. Would you like to come? And we were like, more than anything, like more than I've ever wanted to come before.
And that was a lot.
So, Nicoletta, can you tell us like what your goal behind the retreat was and how many ones like this you've done before?
Yeah. So for folks listening, I'm a marriage family therapist, but I specialize in sex therapy. And another thing that I do in addition to that is something called equine assisted psychotherapy, which is like therapy with horses and donkeys and sometimes other animals around.
Little cutesies.
And so in the last year, I decided to move my office to this really cool ranch property at this place called Special Spirit down in LA. And I have so many amazing, wonderful, healing folks in my life, like Lisa and Ashley and Nadej and Danny, who were the people who presented with me. And some of them came there for an event that I had recently, which was a screening of this like sex education film. And I don't know, I think in talking to all of them at different points, we were like, we should do more things together. Lisa and I have hosted events together before. We did a retreat called Women Who Wonder, and Lisa is an event extraordinaire and does many things. And so I don't know, just talking to all my cool healing friends, and we were like, let's do something together. We've got this awesome space. There's cool animals here. There's goats.
Yeah.
Good selling point.
Let's put all of our healing minds together and showcase all of our passions and see what we can do with this space and hopefully be able to use it even more.
Yeah. And especially at such like a pivotal time in the year when people are like making resolutions and trying to like figure things out again. It's like new year, new me, but like we've approached this before and like maybe let's do it differently this time.
Yeah, well, I think for me too, I was feeling burnt out as most people are at the end of this year. And so I've been wanting to kind of shake things up a bit in my own practice. And I thought this was a fun way to do things with my friends and colleagues and be outside and hopefully bring that energy to other folks and offer healing not only to myself, but in community as well.
Yeah.
So it kind of all came together with this event that we did called Ranch Reboot.
Yeah. And Lisa, you do many, many things. At the Reboot, you did yoga and breathing with us, but kind of walk us through your background and how you got started.
Yeah. So, I have a psychology and English background, but I essentially was a long sort of lifetime in the entertainment industry, music industry, performing, creating events, being a creative director.
Former ballet dancer.
Yeah, former ballet dancer, all the crossover. So it was always kind of in the realm of wellness and being aware of my body in a certain way. But I started probably about 15 years ago, kind of going much deeper into my practice with Kundalini yoga and meditation and Hatha. And then I started to look into hypnotherapy and Reiki healing. And a lot of kind of the more, what people want to call woo-woo sort of arts and practices.
I literally just called it woo-woo earlier today.
Yeah. I mean, I love it.
But not in a negative way, like in like woo-woo.
No, it's not. But it's such a great kind of like accessible word.
Yeah.
So saying like, oh, witchery and magic and, not that there's anything wrong with that. But a huge part of what I do now is it's an integrative behavioral therapy. I work with all sorts of people, both neurodiverse, neurotypical adults, children and adults on the spectrum, and then just also everyday people. And kind of what happens when they come to me, because I have that kind of background in psychology, it's to fuse the two together and then create the support with both the woo-woo, the meditation, the breath work to change the behavior that you have in everyday life. So when somebody leaves Nicoletta or a psychiatrist or something that is kind of seen as a more traditional Western form of psychology, then we kind of back it up with the woo-woo. So I'm like this happy little bridge when somebody's like, okay, I see what's going on. Now, what the fuck do I do? And so I try and kind of incorporate that, which then also includes how do we turn this into everyday behaviors? How do we see this in the events that we attend? How do we see this in the things that we listen to? So I also create TV shows, events, podcasts, things like that. And that's actually, so Nick and I, we've known each other a really long time. Actually, even before that, I was co-owner of a vaginal exercise machine. So it's like Thigh Master for your vagina. And then a friend introduced us at Ellen von Unworth's birthday. And she was like, this is my friend. You have to meet her immediately. She's a sex therapist. She needs to see your product. Like,
we were standing at the bar and just connected over something about vaginas. It was, and it was loud and it was a party. So it was like, I like vaginas. You like vaginas. You work with genitals. You
connected.
Amazing.
Connected.
Connected. Yes.
Yeah. And I think whenever I hear people say the like woo woo thing, I think it might've been our colleague Nadej who did the event with us, but
the sexuality section.
Some people say woo woo, other people just say embodied.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people have this anti woo woo thing and are like, oh, it's spiritual. It's just like appropriating Eastern medicine, but really it's being in your body. And I think we live in a culture that doesn't want us to be in our bodies because then capitalism wouldn't work so well.
Yeah.
We have been talking about appropriation too, and the negative parts of that, but if there are things that work for people and you're discovering things that another culture has come up with and it helps you go within yourself and feel more embodied, I feel like that is something that you should be able to practice.
Absolutely. Something that had been rejected because there wasn't a certain format that, the Western medical community deemed valid because it wouldn't fit into that or it wasn't able to be understood. Why wouldn't we find a way to incorporate that into our health and well-being?
Totally. So Ashley was there on the retreat and it was like the happiest surprise ever.
I was so excited.
Yeah. We intended to see each other when we were in LA anyway, but then COVID was like all serious and we were like, okay, no, we're not going to see anybody unless it's like for a hike. And like, I'm not planning hikes.
We had one planned and we canceled it.
Yeah.
Have you ever done one of Nicoletta's retreats before?
Have. Typically I do it as a facilitator. So it was really nice to do it as a participant. Totally different flavor.
Yeah. When you were facilitating, what were you doing?
I was teaching a hand job workshop and pussy massage workshop.
Okay.
At the same ranch?
No. This was a different event that she had put on.
Style.
I was like, oh my God, everyone's pussies would get so much dirt in them.
So much. Yeah. No. Not at the. That was actually the first time I'd ever been to the ranch, and it was so incredible.
Yeah,
Right?
It was insane. That was one of the reasons why we instantly were like, oh, we're in. Because we were like, animal therapy? Like, we'll be able to pet stuff? Yes.
Right?
Yeah. What were you most excited about as an attendee?
most of it, honestly, but I love horses. So the equine therapy was of particular interest to me. And I also love sound baths.
Robin had the exact opposite reaction with equine therapy.
It was horrible.
Well,
I was shitting myself.
but why? Because you have a previous...
Yeah, because when I was like 8, I was at school and I got bit on the head by a horse.
Sounds
it
traumatic.
just like came up. It was. I was talking to the principal, waiting to cross the road, and the horse came up behind me and just like took a munch on my head, and I was like, "Nah, I gotta get out of here." And it was so much bigger than me because I was like a little tiny one, and I can't. They're beautiful from afar, no worries, but up close, not for me.
My Ben is also afraid of horses.
Interesting.
But yeah, I was stoked on the horse therapy too, and we'll talk about that later. But like the basic run of show was we did like arrivals and icebreakers. We all got there early, which was the best thing ever because we got to have a joint in person.
Yes, we
It was
did.
great.
A joint and a cookie.
A lot of people's, your cookies, oh my God, on their bucket list is probably to smoke with you. And it was on mine too. And I was like, we're doing it.
It's happening.
I felt the same way about you. I was like, oh my God, I finally get to meet Remy in person and Robin and oh my God. And we
Tell
get
me
to
about
smoke together and it's legal. It was so exciting.
Amazing.
It was so exciting. And we all had our own joints. So like if anybody was COVID afraid, like
It was great.
it was not a problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? We just don't pass joints anymore, and that's okay.
No, I mean, I kind of prefer it.
Same.
It's like, you didn't bring your own? Sorry.
Sorry for you.
That's a bummer.
That's a bummer. High tide.
Whoopsies.
Sometimes if I have a lot, like if I've already started one and somebody's like, oh, will you pass it? I'll pass it to them and I'll be like, you keep it. I'm going to spark a new one. Like,
Yes, exactly. Somebody asked me for like a hit of mine at a show and I was like, I have a little one that you can start. So just do that one. Not trying to leave you out, but also not trying to get
can
whatever
my
you have.
germs, but I
Yeah.
don't want yours.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know
Yeah.
what my germs are, so I feel confident passing
Yeah.
them to you.
The first like event of the day was yoga breath work with Lisa, but I was a little nervous about that because of my shoddy ass lungs.
How was that for you? Because there was some intense breath work going on.
It was nice. I liked it. Nicoletta, is there a reason that we started with that? Like, was that an intentional thing you chose for the run of the day?
I think we chose it together as a group. Maybe Lisa, you can speak a little bit to that, but I think it was an invitation to like get into the body instead of just be talking at people. I think I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think we really wanted the retreat to be integrative and experiential. And so instead of just having it be like, okay, let's just talk at people and kind of tell them the same things they've heard over and over, let's actually get people into an experience. And so I think the most important part that you skipped over was the like fancy petting zoo portion where I saw you really connecting with some goats.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
That was the icebreaker.
Wait, that was the icebreaker. You're right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wouldn't say that was
Time.
intentional. That was just kind of like, here's some cute stuff. But I think in
But
retrospect,
it was an
it's intentional 'cause
icebreaker. Yeah.
it was an icebreaker, like, and just connecting in a different space out in nature with all of your senses. And so I think Lisa's work with breath and yoga does a great job of forcing people to get into their body, of kind of bringing the energy up. Yeah, just a good way to not just be talking at people and get into the experience in our bodies.
Yeah, those were fully embodied goats, fully aligned goats. We're like, okay, let's just show them the model right up front. This is where we're going today.
I loved it.
Yeah.
They were ready. But yeah, I mean, it's also getting out of the mind when you're forced to kind of do something physical, and the breath really has a great way of, I mean, in essence, getting you high. So you probably felt, as the repetitive nature of a lot of those movements. And when you're focusing on the breath for, more than 2-3 minutes, you're going to have to let go. Your mind begins to let go just to sustain the rhythm. That's usually the purpose of the breath coming first, is to kind of crack it open, get out of your way, get this kind of essence of ego of why am I here? Who am I attending this? And just getting rid of that. It doesn't matter if you're just there in that present moment. And then we did something that is relative to guided meditation with aspects of hypnotherapy. which is going to basically bring you back to the place where most of your vulnerable state is, and connecting that part of your childlike self with your current adult mind. So a lot of the reasons people need to reboot is because of something that,
happened in their childhood.
They're trying to reprogram in a particular way.
Yeah.
And that usually happens in childhood or some other form. I don't always like to use trauma, but anytime there's a response to a trigger or something like that, then you have the ability to kind of rewrite that in that state of mind. And I think we are hoping that that would just serve as the initial kind of foundation where you have this blank slate, and then everything else that you receive just kind of added on and multiplied that supportive effect.
Yeah, I loved it. It was so great. The part that was hardest for me was the overhead arm thing with the anger.
Oh my
And that's
God.
mostly because like I have minimal arm and shoulder strength and flexibility. So I was just like, this is going to hurt. And it did. It really, I was sore the next day, but it also felt good.
If you're not able to see us, it was like throwing your elbows back over, and then but with your fist over your head, and really, really fast. And Lisa was like, think of somebody that makes you really, really angry. And I was like, oh, I've got so many beefs. I could keep going forever.
My mind went blank, if I'm honest. I couldn't even think of any. She was like, if you can't think of anything angry, think of like curse words or like swear. And I couldn't even think of any of those. I was like, what's happening? But I'm just going to keep going.
She's such a positive light.
I mean,
did you have enough beeves to keep you motivated, or what were you thinking?
I have a couple of really intense beefs, so that sustained me. Like I have more intensity than volume.
Nice.
I was even thinking of my beefs by season. I was like, who did I hate season 1? Who did I hate season 2? And she was like, get it out. And I was like, yes, this is why we're here, so that I don't have to ever think about this shit again.
And I did really feel like a lot of that anger release, which was
I feel like I
cool.
put my beefs to rest.
Yes.
Do you think this fact that we had smoked weed before we did that helped us channel all of that stuff? Like, do you guys feel like that would have intensified it for you guys?
That's a good question.
Thanks. I thought of it myself.
I always think weed gives me clarity. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think
find
these
that
beefs are deep enough that I could have done it sober.
Same.
Fair.
Same. It opens me up. It lets things move through, but also, yeah, I could have done it without if I had to, but it's always nice to use those plant allies to keep things moving.
Yeah, to amplify it a little bit.
And also just to be in a space where it's like other people have smoked too, and like that they're the kind of people that like you're on the same wavelength. Like we all kept our masks on outside. Like I felt like very safe.
Yes.
I felt like that aspect of it made me very comfortable.
Yes, I would say Nicoletta is one of my most COVID conservative friends in terms of like risks, which makes me feel very safe spending time with her.
Same.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, especially since I promised Robin's mom. I was like, I'm going to keep her so safe. And then like the next thing, like we're in a barn.
Hanging out with all these random animals and lots of people. No, we were safe.
But it was good. Yeah. I also really liked it because I feel like breathing is such like a personal thing, and it's such a thing that you can be like embarrassed by.
Yeah.
Like even when
Absolutely.
you're like cuddling with your person, like sometimes I'll become conscious of my breathing and I'll be like, ugh, like he can hear my breathing, or like I'm breathing too loud, or people have said like you're a mouth breather to other people, like it can be like a very like self-conscious thing. And it was like really like letting go in a group of people where we're all doing this and we're all like allowing each other to hear us in like these very full, very like guttural, and then also like singing.
People were putting their arms in sort of like a backstroke
Oh yes,
motion.
we were backstroking.
You kind of had to just you just had to get like playful and weird and silly with it as well, even though not saying it's a silly practice, but it's like
no, but like allow yourself to look weird, allow yourself to sound
to let
weird
go
in front of other people and let go. And
which is the same as like the same shit about trying to orgasm or trying to come, being able to like not be thinking about what does my face look like, what do I sound like, how can I just be in my body and my pleasure. And I think it's so key for so many things.
Yeah, I thought it was I also initially was nervous that it was going to be like full on yoga. And I was like, we're going to have our butts in the air. And like, we didn't. And it was like, but breathing is as vulnerable as having your butt in the air sometimes. Yeah. And so it was just nice to like, that's where we started, that everyone was like, okay,
everyone's on the same
we're
page.
ready. Yeah.
And also think about, I mean, just how long we've been wearing masks for and how much we've been suppressing our breath. When you decide to kind of actively engage with your breath, your body will fill up with what we call prana. So it's that life force energy. And when you have the ability to control that, not only does it give the mind this kind of steady one-pointed balance, but it also allows the body to be rejuvenated again. And because we've been suppressing that, maybe we can't handle things as best as we hoped. And so even just simply counting your breath, I mean, we went obviously a little deeper, but there's so many different things you can do with the breath that are just going to completely be, you know, what I consider life-changing experiences once you feel that. And it's very similar to an orgasm. You're moving energy in that same context. You know, when I practice Kundalini, I have orgasms sometimes because of the way the energy moves.
I was tingling at different points during the breath work. I was like, is this okay?
I was going to say that.
Yeah. Oh God, is she going to be doing that?
We didn't expect this. It's next to my mouth without touching. But it's funny that you mentioned the masks too, because we all kept our masks on even though we were outside. And it was one of the first times while wearing a mask that I wasn't focused on, like, even though I was focused on my breathing, I wasn't focused on like, oh, it's uncomfortable to breathe in the mask. I was just like, I'm doing my breath work. The mask has nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. You just go for it.
So that was fun and cool. And I can imagine that people would have orgasms if they were alone and let themselves go. Most of the...
I mean, you've done it in classes. Yeah.
There's one. What? Yeah. There's one where you hook your fingers around your big toes and you're going side to side. And that one always does it. Or rocking the stomach. I'll teach you how to have an orgasm doing Kundalini. Yeah. I'm always like, really?
I think we got to have an episode where Lisa just like guides us in energetic orgasms, because I am about that.
Yeah. Well, no, you have an actual orgasm. It's not just energetic or skin.
It was like what I did the other day. That was
just do that the other day.
Well, it was like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
You were touching your big toes and having an orgasm?
No. I had a hands-free one.
Meditative
and
orgasm.
it was definitely like because of the way I was breathing and everything.
Hell yeah. Well, yeah, I think people think that all breaths are created equal. And it's like, yeah, of course, if you're alive, you're fucking breathing. But there are so many different kinds of breaths that elicit different responses in the body and the nervous system. And yeah, it's powerful stuff. I mean, I use it with clients to help them get grounded, to help them get excited, to help them prepare for sex, to maybe help them orgasm. There's a lot that just this simple breath can do.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's amazing.
Well, now that you've like come in your life, maybe now it's like different chapters of how come meditation, how come energy, like, you know, and coming from other things.
I know. I really need to I plateaued for a while because I was like, I'm comfortable. But now I'm like, it's time to explore more.
Let's not call it plateau. Let's call it like savoring and what you've fucking accomplished. I think plateau is such
Thank you for reframing that.
Yes.
I'm just saying that because I do that to myself where I'm like, what's next? I have to do more. I have to do more, as opposed to like, I did this fucking huge thing. So let's just live here. Like at the end of a yoga thing.
The yummy.
Savasana, right? Is that what it's called, Lisa?
Yeah. Savasana.
I was Shavasanaing. I
Savasana everywhere.
Squirted Shavasana all over.
And then we did the erotic wellness with Nadej, which I think talking about sex after the breathing exercises was really cool because we were already in that state of mind and we got to journal about that. I'm really curious to hear how your experience was.
I loved it. Well, okay. I love Nadej. Nadej and I met through Nicoletta years ago, and I am obsessed with her. She's really and truly brilliant and gifted as an educator. And so I loved getting to be in a workshop space with her. And I loved that the questions that she asked, I have done those orally. And I've used those as like, this is a conversation you should have with a partner. Like, what are the things to look for if you're having a good time? What are the things to look and sound and whatever if you're not having a good time as like cues? But it never occurred to me to do it as a journaling exercise. And I was like, that's brilliant. Now you just have it written down.
Yeah. I don't even know if I've ever asked those questions of myself. Yeah. And the first one was, what do you look like and what does your body look like when you're having like a great time during sex? And I was like, oh my God, like it was fun to write it down. I also kept like glancing at Robin's just to see if I was writing the right thing. And I was just like, oh, hers is totally different. Like I have to go back to me.
I was writing like, I would feel like in those ones, I was just trying to write what I could remember and like recall. And I was like, there's like so many different things. It was really hard to like channel it to a couple just in the short time that we had. But yeah, I feel like it was open to your interpretation of how you wanted to answer them, which is why it's like a journaling
It's a great question. There's so many sort of multifaceted, like micro expressions, noises, body positions, muscle tension, all of those kinds of things are going to be indicative of having a good time or a not so good time, which was the second question.
Yeah, that's what I was. I never noticed that like my mouth is open a lot if I'm having a good time, whereas like I glanced over at Robin's and she was like, I bite my lip or whatever. And I was like, oh, I don't do that.
Yeah.
But
I didn't know I did that until like one of the last times I had sex. And then I was like, oh yeah, I definitely do that. And then like recalling on the past times, I'm like, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Love that. That kind of sexual self-reflection is so valuable, and it's a thing that I don't think we do in our day-to-day lives unless prompted. So it just made it really, really a great exercise.
Will you share yours with us if you're comfy? What you look like?
Absolutely. So ways to tell that I'm having a good time. I'm very vocal. If I go quiet, that's an indicator that things aren't going well. Because I swear a lot, so it's a lot of yes, fuck yes, oh my fucking god, yes, more God, you're so hot, like all of those kinds of very affirming verbal cues. My hips move a lot. Like I end up moving. I'm very embodied when I'm having a good time. I'm making eye contact. I'm smiling. Sometimes eyes are closed, like in ecstasy, but a lot of the time eyes are open.
Interesting.
And I'm just like gripping and pulling you deeper into me. Like that's all my tells.
Is that the same when you're alone? Like, do you make sounds when you're alone too?
I have trained myself to make sounds when I'm alone.
Amazing.
I didn't always. Much like most people, I grew up masturbating in stealth mode. So quickly and silently was the name of the game. And as an adult, as I became a sex educator, I learned how valuable it is to make noise. And I felt very self-conscious in front of partners. So I started practicing on my own.
Yeah. Like I notice like it's not just like my mouth is open, like I'm licking stuff. Like whether I'm with a person, I'm licking them, or like I'm licking my own shoulders, or like I'm just licking like the bottom of my own chin. That is just like,
that's amazing.
Whereas like, and that amount of openness is so opposite to how my body is reacting. My body is clenched and tiny, like a tight little bean or whatever. And like, just to write down like clenched as being like a sign of a good thing, I was like, ooh, she slipped the script, like, and that's just like a nice thing to recognize about myself.
Well, and it's a huge cheat code because it's a little bit counterintuitive. So to be able to tell a partner, oh no, when I clench, that's actually a good thing.
I never even thought of it like, because I only entered into it with the journaling exercise. And now I'm like, oh wait, you can use this to communicate better. Like duh. But like, yeah, also yay, like even if it was obvious, like it's exciting to be able to do. That was another thing too, is like somebody who talks about sex all the time and is giving people advice. Like I'm sure you had a similar experience where it was like, oh, it's interesting that like I've said certain things like this to other people, but now it's being said back to me, and like I can take it to heart in such a different way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
With the clenching thing, I realized as you were saying that, I was like, I'm mostly relaxed. But then when I start to get close to orgasm, that's when I clench my legs and I point my toes. And so like my boyfriend can always tell when I'm about to come. I mean, because he's we've been together for 6.5 years, so he knows my orgasms pretty well at this point. But he's also like, oh, you're pointing your toes. Oh, like your calves are just like rock hard. Yep, you're about to just explode.
Doing the right thing.
Yeah, I always thought of toe pointing as a specifically like penis owning thing, because like every guy I've ever seen has pointed their toes, and now it's like, oh yeah, we do that too.
Totally,
we can.
Ben's nipples get rock hard right when he's coming. Like they will go from just like normal nipples to like ping.
Ashley's boyfriend's name is Ben as well. She is not fucking my Ben.
I was gonna say, you need to clarify that.
Ben, sorry.
Okay, so we did erotic. Well, is that the only thing she asked us? Was what do you look like? Good
I think
good
she
asked
and bad,
else.
and then
the last one was what does a sexually liberated person look, sound?
Oh,
act
yes.
Like,
yes. Oh, but struggling during sex was just as eye-opening too. Because just how you said your eyes will be open if you're having a good time, my eyes are open if I'm having a bad time. I'm generally like staring at the ceiling or like making my face like sometimes I'll even like do like a Zach Morris move to like the cameras that's not there, and I'll be like, ugh.
Oh my gosh. I hope Ben's not listening.
I know. No, but he should know.
Yeah, no, he should. You should be telling him this, not us. And us.
I have a lot of saying ow and never mind. I shut down. And,
okay.
Yeah, I shut down and I let the other person finish, or I quit solo and my brows are furrowed.
Okay.
There's definitely an angry element.
I'm trying to think about what mine was. I think it was also like a frustration. Usually if I'm struggling, it's a lot of it's like self-inflicted. It's my own distractions. It's not necessarily the moment. It's just my mind wandering. So I'll get like pissed off at myself and try to bring myself back in, because it's not as though it doesn't feel good. I'm just losing it. Like when it's building, I'm like, oh, what? I forgot to put petrol in my car. So it's a lot of, anger towards myself. And yeah, I mean, I can't even remember the other stuff that I said.
Yeah.
Robin, that makes me curious. Like, are you open to a little mini coaching?
Go for it.
Okay. Would that be a situation where you would be up for like enlisting your partner's help when you notice like your mind is wandering and you're sort of not focused, rather than getting mad at yourself, being like, hey, I'm noticing like my attention is waning and I want to be here. Like, can you help me like be present?
Yeah, I have. And usually I will, or I'll be like, can we switch this up? Can we try something different to try and like re-engage it? But it's usually, that's the point at which I start struggling, is because of something I've done. And I will ask to change things or whatever, but it's usually, it'll be, especially if it's a solo sort of situation.
Got it.
Then 100% it'll be like, I'll be like, fuck, I had like 5 minutes that I was planning on, using for this, and I couldn't even, I just was so worried about that. Totally. And then that's where the anger comes. But usually in like a partner situation, I could be like, okay, like, how about we? But yeah, no.
See, I should how about we instead of never minding.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm getting so mad at myself for not being able to fully communicate still. But then also internalizing like, but you're just not listening well enough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I hear that.
Good old how about we? How about we try this?
How about you, Ashley?
Yeah.
In terms of how can you tell I'm not having a good time? So it goes one of two ways. Either I sort of dissociate, where not making eye contact, like you said, kind of staring at the ceiling or staring at the wall, my face goes into resting bitch face and I go kind of limp.
Yeah.
And I've broken this habit mostly. I'm like 95% recovered from this pattern, but old me, 20s me for sure. If I wasn't having a good time, I would jump into giver mode. I'd be like, let me give you a hand job. Let me get on top. Let me take charge and like focus on you and your pleasure. And we'll just forget about my pleasure. Like that doesn't matter. I'll take care of myself later.
I'm guilty of doing that
totally.
A couple times.
Mine is like, I'll just let you pound it out so that we can be done, and I don't have to keep being so disappointed in myself or you or the situation.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So if she's laying there, if they're just laying there.
Yeah, if they're starfishing, you might want to check in.
Yeah. So then, yes, this was the question. What does a sexually liberated person look like? How do they walk into a room? I said they are confident in themselves and their choices. maybe even certain about their choices, which sounds so crazy to me. Certain about a choice? What?
Madness.
They know they have other choices too. They don't search for other people to complete them. They just enjoy it when someone new can enhance enjoyment and sex. They are attracted to themselves. They don't feel embarrassed too much or think about what other people think about them.
Mm-hmm. I like it so far. I
think-
agree. I think I had a lot of similar things.
Yeah. And I realized that it was like very vague, because it wasn't like, oh, a person who hooks up with 19,000 people, or a person who only needs one person, or, you know, like it was like a person who makes a choice and is like, yeah, go my
Confident
choices.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I think confidence was a big part of a sexually liberated person for me. Just, you know, confident in the bedroom and the boardroom kind of thing. It just kind of translates across, I guess.
Someone who's not having sex to be liked, but having sex because they like sex.
And they're having good sex because they know how to ask for what they want and everything. They're not out here having shitty sex.
Or they're having no sex because they know they don't like sex.
Exactly.
And they're confident in that.
In that decision that they've made.
Like, I think that's sexually liberated too, because it's not within the confines of you need to want to have sex.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No sex can be good sex.
Yeah. If you hate sex, no sex is great sex.
For sure.
What do you think a sexually liberated person is?
Well, you know, me.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
also,
I would say you.
Me, for sure. I feel so much more sexually liberated now than I ever have in my life. And what
Congrats.
that, you know, the components of that are knowing what I want, what my desires are, what turns me on, how my body responds, my preferences on touch and scenarios, and like what I need environmentally. I don't want laundry on the floor. I don't want like a stinky, like unkempt bed. I want incense. I want music. With like a curated playlist. I want I want warmed up lube, you know?
Yeah.
And
do you have that thing, that pump?
I have a baby bottle warmer that I put my lube in.
Nice.
And that has
I
made
love that.
all the difference in the world, because there are devices that like squirt it out pre-warmed.
Yeah.
But it never gave me the volume I wanted. Like I would have to do it 20 times, and like that
ruins
help.
the mood.
That takes way too much time. So I'm just like, okay, pop the bottle in the baby bottle warmer, squirt out as much as I want, and then go to town.
Like those impossible sinks at the airport where you're like, come on, just give me some more water. I can't wash my fucking hands or finger my partner. Yeah.
Right. Getting cock-blocked by technology.
Yes.
No, you don't want to be mad at Siri, because then when the machines rise up, they'll get mad back. You have to
That's true.
keep that relationship okay. But yeah, then she asked us about talking about sex, and like how to ask for what you want, which is something that we've literally already covered. But I was taking it in so much. I was like, yes, while hiking or driving.
We've given that advice.
Even though we've given that advice, I was like, yeah, I should the next time I'm hiking or driving, or like I should set up a hike because like I have some things that I'd like to ask for.
Driving can be a little bit fraught, I've found, especially if it's a long drive, because sometimes, especially if it's a really emotionally charged topic, people can feel claustrophobic and stuck. Like, oh my God, I'm really overwhelmed right now and I can't do anything because I'm driving. Or like my boyfriend and I used to process in the car all the time. And now he's like, I don't want you to be driving while we're discussing challenging things, because I want you to be focused on driving.
Right.
But lighter stuff, things like, I like this, or maybe we could try that, for sure. You can do in the car. But like the key that she really brought home, which I loved, is sitting next to each other.
Right.
Which makes it feel like a team thing as opposed to across from each other, which makes it feel a little bit more adversarial.
Yeah, like 100%. An interview or a negotiation or something.
Exactly.
Or just, when we were talking about it with Helen Fisher, she was like, it's because of evolution. Like most people, like when they were like hunting, like they were side by side, and they're not like, you know, there's not that added pressure of looking in another person's eyes, which I don't know if you guys think about this, but whenever I'm having any conversation, my eyes are constantly darting around.
Yeah.
So like just to like remove that aspect from an already potentially difficult conversation is like, okay, let's walk side by side, and then we can look at other scenery while having our thoughts.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so much easier to not have to make eye contact. Like adding eye contact makes it more intense, more intimate, more all of those things, which can be good if you feel comfortable and safe in that. But if that's overwhelming for you, for sure, like look away, look over here. That's all good.
Yeah. Do you remember a time when you were not sexually liberated? And like how recent was that time?
It's been about pretty much since I met Ben, honestly. Most of my 20s I had really disempowered, shitty sex for all the wrong reasons. I was doing it for like validation of my worth as a human. I was doing it for attention. I was doing it because I was lonely.
Yeah.
And now in my 30s, and as I approach, I'm now 35. I turned 36 this year. Like I am well into my 30s. I just don't have time for that bullshit anymore. Like I have a really low tolerance for nonsense. And if I'm going to be having sex, if I'm going to let you fuck me, which is a really spectacular experience, you goddamn well better earn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Your relationship with Ben. Can you tell us how you guys started seeing each other? Like what the arrangement is?
Yes, it is quite an interesting arrangement. So Ben and I are in an open relationship. We met in June of 2015 at a sex party in San Diego.
Cool.
And we were sitting in the welcome circle and I spied him from across the circle. And I was just like, wow, he's really hot. Yes, I want that one. And when we made...
That's what I did with my Ben, but it was at a comedy show. I was like, I will take him home, please.
That. Yes. And one of the opening exercises at a lot of play parties is the 3-minute game. So you pair off into a group of 3 and you each share what you want to do to each other for 3 minutes. And like, as soon as we broke for that activity, I like made a beeline for him.
Amazing.
So I was sure that I would be in his group. And oh God, we had amazing sex that night. And we've been together ever since. And he's actually married. He is in a mono-poly. So his wife is monogamous. He's non-monogamous. That is entirely her choice. She could, if she wanted to, date other people. She chooses not to.
Yeah.
And then he's a slut. So he has a lot of other lovers. And then, so he has a wife, he has a girlfriend, which is me. And then he has a litany of lovers and playmates.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
And have you ever met his wife?
I have, multiple times.
Cool. Do you have any other boyfriends, or is he your like main guy?
He is my main guy as of now. I am actually in the market for another boyfriend. I would ultimately like to have like a day-to-day nesting partner, companion that I can live with and still maintain my relationship with Ben and have other lovers and be in a non-monogamous situation. But like, I want to live with someone. I want someone to like come home to at night. That would be nice.
Totally.
So if anybody's
somebody
interested
to have
and lives in
meals
Southern
with
California,
all the time.
Right. Yeah. Like, I want to fuck
she's a
daily,
Taurus.
you know?
She needs the good stuff always.
Always. I need the dick on the regular. And Ben and I only see each other about once or twice a week. So
yeah, that's not enough.
It's not. It's really not.
So were you going to any sex parties while still feeling like inhibited?
Early on in my sex party journey, I was a little tiny bit inhibited, but most of that happened like after I moved to California, which was in like the 28, 29, 30 era. So like I was much better by that point.
Okay.
And if I didn't feel comfortable playing, I just didn't play, which was a good like stopgap.
Yeah. And it's an option. And I think people don't even realize that with sex parties. They're like, instantly have to be like plugging one person while getting fisted. And it's like,
oh no,
you can be in the corner.
You can just be there.
I would say I have not played at more play parties than I've played at this point. And I think that's great. I think it's good to be discerning.
Yeah. And just like observe how other people, like it's free porn, essentially.
Oh my God. One of my colleagues who runs sex parties a lot, Monique Darling, always likes to say voyeurism is participation. And I love watching people fuck. It doesn't even turn me on necessarily. Like for me, I have sex educator brain, so I sort of see it in like the X-ray version of like, oh, okay, so that position, like they're hitting the G spot, or like that's oh, okay, I see why they're doing that. Like, so it's intellectually interesting for me to watch people fuck.
I literally at one party, I was outside of a jail cell talking to this guy who produced gigolos, and we were like not attracted to each other at all. I mean, maybe he was attracted to me, but it wasn't that kind of conversation. We were just talking about like working in sex and how he started producing that. And I think he produced polyamory as well, or he told me about polyamory. But next to us in this jail cell is this couple that's just like going to town on each other. And I wasn't turned on by them. I was just like, they are putting on such a good show.
It's like background music.
Can we assume that this is not a functional jail cell? Just to clarify.
Not a functional jail cell.
Okay,
Sex party jail cell.
Not legit.
No.
Where are you going to these
like
sex
a dungeon.
parties?
I was getting booked. I stayed booked and busy. No, we were at a sex party. It was a sex party jail cell. But yeah, and we're just having this conversation while these people are banging. And I was like, this is just such a cool experience.
Yes.
But yeah, and I've asked Ben too. I'm like, I would love to go to a sex party, not even basically to play with anybody else right away. I want to bang him in front of other people.
Fun.
I think that would be fun.
Do it.
I've had multiple people like Skype or Zoom me into their sex. So we're sort of having an impromptu threesome, but mostly like they're fucking and I'm just over here watching on webcam, and it's awesome.
So fun.
Amazing.
Right. My favorite part of that day too was Nicoletta gave us yoga mats from Chatterbait. Iconic. Okay, so we did our sex stuff, and did you have any goals that you wrote down that surprised you, or things that you wanted sexually?
Nothing really surprised me. Mostly I want more 2-guy threesomes, and I want to do more like sex tourism. Like I want to go to Paris and fuck you in Paris. I want to go to the Amalfi Coast and fuck you on the Amalfi Coast.
Yes.
Like that. That's travel's been coming up more. So I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
I love that. I think we did a manifestation that day too.
Yeah,
that
I think
was like, what do you want to manifest for the year or whatever? And Robin said travel. So now you guys are.
Yeah.
Maybe you should go sex travel. Yeah.
Well, no, because travel's been my goal for ages. That when they were like, what are your goals? I was like, I'm living the dream, mate. I don't have any goals. Like it's hard to decide because for so long this has been the goal.
And now you're doing it.
I know.
Actually, that was one of the most woo-woo things that happened on the trip, because just like a really like, ooh, this is where we're supposed to be moment.
Yeah.
When we were doing the breath work and all of the SMART goals and stuff, the area we were sitting in on the side of the barn, there were a bunch of little Dr. Seuss characters. And I was like, Robin, isn't that so funny? Like, it's so meant to be, because like her friends gave her, oh, the places you'll go before she left home.
Really?
And then when we went to like round the corner to do the equine therapy, there was a huge mural that said, oh, the places you'll go, like with the cover of the book. It was insane.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that was our SMART goals that we did with Jordan, which was goal setting. And that was really fun and very like tangible, like a very tangible way to like do New Year's resolutions or just like
for sure
any other kind of goal. I don't really have my SMART sheet in front of me.
It's like go through the letters. It's like specific, measurable, actionable, I want to say relevant, and then time. So it's just a way to break down your goals. So you actually have like small little, why am I doing this? When do I want it to be done? As just so that it's not just an open-ended.
And managing your own expectations, like not just being like, I want to have a TV show, but being like, I want to write a pilot. I want it done by March 8th. Is it attainable? Is it manageable? Is it rational, or whatever it was?
Yeah, so specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Yeah, because I think most people just go into goal setting and they're like, I want a better sex life. It's like, well, what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
Right.
You want to fuck more people? Do you want to have better communication with your current person?
Yeah, how will you know when you've got a better sex life if you're just open-ended?
That was a good question too. How do you know that you've done it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like, well, the thing is written. Well, I had the orgasm.
Yeah.
Well, I fucked someone in a ranch.
Yeah. Wherever you want to, whatever you want. Yeah. And then the most traumatic.
And then the most traumatic thing for Robin, but I thought so interesting, and you thought it was great too, was the horses.
Yeah. I did enjoy it. I will say it was it was confronting. It was scary, but it was great.
Enjoy it in the way that someone would push you off of the thing to go bungee jumping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nicoletta, how did you start doing that? And also, how does it play into like sex therapy?
Yeah, I think whenever I say I do both of those things, people can get some like pervy ideas of like sex therapy with horses. Are we watching them have sex? And funnily enough, one of my sessions today, actually, the horses were doing some weird erotic thing, but that was not the point of us being there. They were just being animals. But anyway, I grew up riding horses competitively, and just being around animals and things was always very healing to me. And so obviously I kind of took a step back from that and became a therapist. And as I've been in the field for a while, I think that talk therapy is really important and useful, but I also have learned more and more, both through my own healing and just looking at what's helpful for others and getting more trauma informed, just about the necessity of experiential embodied practice, like we're talking about today, as an added tool in really being able to incorporate the things that people are learning and taking away from talk therapy. And so I just thought it would be cool to combine. I had seen people do sort of equine assisted therapy before with, horses and donkeys. And so I ended up getting trained through this group called EGALA, which is kind of a specific type of equine facilitated therapy. There's lots of different kinds and different eclectic ways that people do it. My style is a bit more eclectic. But basically the point of it is that we as humans, even if you're vegan, vegetarian, whatever, that we are predators. And horses are prey animals, even if they're bigger and scarier. So they see us as potentially a threat to them as predators. And so something that horses are really good at is calling out bullshit on people. So in order to keep themselves safe, they're really good at seeing if I asked you how you're doing and you said you were fine, but really there was something going on internally,
the horse
they're going to
would know.
respond to that with sort of question, like, what's your intention? Because in the wild, snakes, coyotes, other predators, they are going to be pretending to not be there, pretending to not be hungry, literally slithering through the grass, trying to hide. And so one of the ways that equine helps is it kind of forces people to really get honest and real with themselves about what's happening to them in the current moment. They can't pretend. It also really helps people get in the present moment, kind of like the breath and the yoga, because you have to be in the present moment when you've got this huge animal. And then they're also in the present moment. They're usually moving pretty slowly. Sometimes they look kind of boring because they're just like rolling around or breathing or hanging out. Like they're very good at just being. And that's something I personally struggle a lot with. So they help people just be. But then lastly, they just sort of provide this sort of mirrored experience where they kind of get to fill in as a person or group or community in your life, and sort of act as a metaphor to call out or call in things that you're working on. Because you're sort of forced to do these, not forced, I'm not forcing people to do the therapy, but like,
Robin was forced.
I was forced. I felt real forced.
By me, though.
I don't know.
No, by myself, for sure. Remy was like,
Challenge
you
yourself.
don't have to. I was like, no, I'll just walk in.
It was like,
I'll
you're
just be
fired.
there.
You're fired if you don't do this.
It was
Do
like,
this
you
or
better
leave.
vlog.
Just get a fucking plane back home. But yeah,
Almost
when you're
did.
with them, they force you to look at what's happening within your internal self, whether that be discomfort or frustration or insecurities. I see that happen a lot with horses when they are just going to take care of themselves by going to get a drink of water or eat something, and people are like, they're walking away, they hate me.
Yeah.
So people project all things onto them. It's a little bit like art therapy, where you just kind of are being creative and using metaphors in the space to help you work through real life stuff in real time, but with a majestic creature.
See, it's funny because maybe the reason I blacked out the goats and the donkeys in the beginning is because none of them wanted to be around me. And I was like, oh, you sense my evil? Okay, bye. Like, I don't need my evil reflected upon me right now, goat.
I was living for the sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's, if we were in a session, we would like talk about that, and they're kind of providing that. And I would often, if you were my client, I would ask something like, well, are there other options for why they weren't near you?
Yes.
How were you feeling? Were you feeling anxious? Were they picking out? Yeah, maybe you smell like shit. Maybe they saw you were smoking weed and they're like, I'm not trying to get high today.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But depending on how you were feeling, animals are not judgmental, but they do kind of, especially prey animals, they do ask us to get present with ourselves and what's happening. But there's other reasons too, like, I don't know about you, but there are some people I know who just aren't cuddly people. Right. And they like to connect in other ways. And so I think when we see an animal, it can be really rejecting to be like, why don't you want to like cuddle me? Why don't you want to be close to me? Why don't you love me? I know I feel really rejected when dogs don't love me.
A dog barked at me today and I was literally like,
I should just end my life.
I should kill myself. Yeah.
Like, that's not what you're supposed to do.
He said.
So,
He did not.
Yeah, but and then usually like someone who feels that way with an animal probably feels that way with other people in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, someone didn't listen to the podcast. They clearly hate me. Or like this one got less listens. I'm clearly a terrible podcaster. Like these are things that, I think of as well for myself. And so it's an opportunity to reflect on that, to come up with other versions, to like try things on and do it in real time. And the activity we did with the group was a large group one. I've never done such a large group before. It's really interesting. But I think it was great, but it was also challenging because people were having to deal with everyone's dynamic.
Yes.
Like it's in a small microcosm community. And that was, I think it did everything it was supposed to, because everyone just had to be present with their experience of having to work as a team with a bunch of people they don't know, like in life. And
I was thinking
took away
about
a lot of different stuff.
Like if we had known each other, would it be different? But I'm happy that we didn't know each other, because it was like, oh, this is just how I respond to a group dynamic in general. It has nothing to do with these people. It's like, this is how I show up to group projects or group hangs or whatever. And it's like, and it brought up, I think, a lot of emotions and, like you said, like a lot of different things for different people after we discussed it at the end.
Yeah, it's so nice because I like personally saw, and I was like, I don't know anyone here. Therefore, I can't make any judgment. I can't blame anyone for doing anything because I don't know what they're doing. I can't be like, oh, that horse has mommy issues, 9 out of 10 times. It's like, it's what's happening inside of you. Any of your actions, any of like what you do or say is a reflection of what's happening inside of you. And so when you have this ability to be within a group and not know anyone, you're left to like really see yourself. And Nicoletta, you were speaking, but when you kind of, were introducing the horses and what we were going to do, and, you were talking about the horses being a mirror. Everyone shifted a little bit and they were like, uh-oh.
He's going to see us.
Uh-oh, we're going to see it.
They're going to know.
They know I'm uncomfortable now. Like the horse is uncomfortable. Like, that's me. This is my corner.
Yeah. And of course, Robin being the scared one, like the horses were freaking out most in that corner.
I know. Oh my gosh. They would like stop on the other side of the paddock and look towards the gate. And I was like, they're looking at me. They're about to charge at me. This is not where I want to be standing. But obviously
you will.
We're coming with you, like it or not.
Yeah, but like to give an example, so the exercise for people listening, it was like we all talked and stuff first, and then people got in a circle, and the goal was we had to have the horse running around the outside of the circle one direction without touching it, basically. But you had to maintain your like boundary circle. And I was watching back one of the videos, and there was like a rule that the horse couldn't break into the middle of the circle. Otherwise there was like a consequence. And one of the areas where it kept breaking into the circle, the person was filming on their phone the whole time. So they weren't present. So everyone else was kind of creating this energy to get this horse moving around.
I think that's why the goats didn't like me. Because I was just trying to vlog them.
Maybe.
I was treating them like content, not like goats.
Honestly, maybe they really do. And it doesn't mean they don't like you or like I hate you forever, but it may mean like, yeah, why should I be present with you?
You're not present with me. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm not here just to be your, your Insta photo. Even though like I guess we kind of did use them for that as well. To promote the
They're so cute.
Yeah, so they knew and they're like, fuck you, I'm not getting paid for this. Like,
but that I feel like that like plays into sex as well. Not that we're trying to have sex with these goats, but it's like how
clarify that.
How can
for
you
yourself.
Whoa.
Just kidding.
When I say I'm going to pet the donkey, I'm not trying to get any ass. But yeah, that's how can you expect somebody else to bring themselves to you fully, in an intimate act or even in friendship or whatever, if you're not bringing yourself fully?
Yeah.
Completely.
Completely.
So you got registered as a therapist first, and then started doing horse therapy?
Yeah, so there are different ways and styles that people do work with horses. You don't have to be a licensed therapist, but then you can't call it therapy. They might call it like animal assisted learning or equine assisted learning. There's also different types of therapy. Some is like more like a physical therapy, also called hippotherapy. Or hippotherapy, excuse me. Not with hippos, it's with horses.
Yeah.
And so it's like riding on the horses to help with movement for people who are struggling with movement and like small fine motor skills. And then what I do is not usually on the horses, it's on the ground. And so it's basically therapy in a horse and donkey environment. But in order to do that and call it that, you have to be a licensed therapist.
She's a sex scholar, and she also is a horse whisperer. Maybe even a horse girl, dare I say.
Oh, she's totally a horse girl, for sure. She's been riding since she was a little kid.
She does all types of riding.
Like
she had like horses in her name on the gate. She's definitely a horse girl.
Yeah.
Totally a horse girl.
And it was an interesting exercise because obviously most of us had never done it before. And we were just kind of like, okay, like, yeah, well, Nicoletta's like, how many times should we make them go around the ring? And we were like, 5, like people like without ever having done it were like 5. And like, we were like, okay, 5. And the first go around was like the hardest thing ever. Like nobody knew what to do.
Nobody was talking.
The people who did know what to do weren't saying anything because they didn't want to like make it easier. But then we all realized that it was like a group exercise, and teamwork was the goal. And so once we did start talking, it like started to go more. But I just had this reaction when I thought people were doing the wrong thing. I was getting so mad, even though I didn't know the right thing to do. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so similar to like other things I've encountered, whether it's like podcasting or like, like pitching shows or whatever. I'll go get so mad at the people that I'm working with because I'm like, oh, like you're doing the wrong thing, even though I don't necessarily know the right thing.
Yeah.
Or like even with COVID, like I'll see people doing stuff and I'll get so mad and I'm like, you're doing the wrong thing. But I'm like, I don't even know what the right thing is.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, I don't know, put a lot of stuff into perspective that it's like, yeah, things are hard when like a bunch of people don't know what they're doing. But like the point isn't to get mad, it's to figure it out.
Yeah, we were all in the same boat and we were all kind of experiencing the same like sort of agitation towards each other.
Absolutely. And the thing I love most about group processes, and especially in the arena of equine therapy, is that like everything is a metaphor. And I think Nicoletta said that toward the end.
Yes.
And that is so much fun to play with, to be like, oh, I'm noticing this about myself. And like, what does it say that I'm getting mad that somebody's doing it wrong, even though I don't really know how to do it right? What does it mean that we wanted to do 5 rotations when no one knew what the fuck they were doing? And so like, how often do I bite off more than I can chew, sort of optimistically? And then realize,
or like,
oh fuck, that's not going to work out.
The people setting their SMART goal as being like, I want to make $6 million this year or whatever.
Right.
It's like, that's going to be fucking hard. Like when we were doing that first one, it reminded me of that metaphor that's like, oh, your first million is your hardest or whatever. And then,
absolutely,
then they started going easier and easier. And I was like, these are just you have to always work through the challenges first. Like even when Robin and I were making flyers for our shows coming up, I was like, this is so fucking annoying, but the next time we do it, it'll be that much easier.
Yeah. Exactly. And we did, by the end of it, the horses, I think we got like 2 or 3 good runs where they just kept going. And we did probably get our 5 in the end. But when we started and we were doing that first one, I don't think any of us were confident we were going to get it done.
No.
But we did.
Nope. We did. Yay, us.
I know.
It was
Good
so
job.
cool.
And it brings up a lot of stuff. Like it brings up different ways of approaching a problem. It brings up communication barriers. It brings up them speaking a different language or having different like erotic goals. So there is a way to combine it with the sex therapy and have it not be weird.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
100%. I didn't doubt you for a second.
Have either...
So sometimes it's weird. Like when today I was in session and they were like literally trying to mount each other. And I'm like, well, this is relevant.
They're just trying to show you what they like.
This is more than a
is
metaphor.
Literally just literal happening.
This is literal.
Yeah, it was ended up being helpful. We reflected on some things and that's another thing too, is that you can't control what they're doing, right? You can have this idea of how you want shit to go, but another part of it is like accepting the lack of control.
Totally.
And so with the horses, like, and the other animals, they're going to do what they want to do. They have their own personality, horsenality, whatever you want to call it. And so you kind of have to figure out how to like roll with the punches, how to figure things out when it's not going your way, and how to work with sentient beings with their own desires and preferences and needs and all that.
Yeah. And like they're like representative of the world and the universe. Like the universe is going to do what it wants sometimes. And you can't control it. You just kind of have to, you can control how you respond to it.
You can make a decision to let it come through your boundary.
Yeah. And that I think is particularly difficult for me. I think I was drawn to this because it's difficult for me. It's really hard for me to just be and not want to control.
Yeah.
So even when y'all came to the ranch reboot, like Lisa could probably tell you, because we've done events together, I can get a little like structured, in my head. I think it's how I deal with anxiety. So I'm like, okay, we got to do this first, and then this is going to happen. And then like, I'm going to check in with everyone, and I'm going to make sure everything goes smoothly. And if people don't have a good time, it's all my fault.
And they hate me personally.
And so I had to take a step back in doing the big group equine thing because there were lots of things I couldn't and shouldn't control, because then it wouldn't have unfolded the way that it did. And so I had to control and check in with myself and be like, just let it happen. Things are going to happen as they're supposed to happen. You can't force it. And that's usually when the best shit comes out of it.
I always like to hear that the instructor's having the same thoughts as us.
Yeah.
Like even with all the years of experience, it's like you're still working through stuff, and that just makes it. Yeah.
Therapists are human. Everyone's
Except for
just
that
human.
little buddy down there. Hello.
The lion.
Yeah.
The lion is magical. He has definite.
He came over because he
powers.
sensed our non-evil.
Yeah.
But I think that's why people are so drawn to your show, is because you're being a real person and talking about like what really you had to go through in your experience to do this.
Yeah.
And I think that's a piece that was missing from like old school therapy, is like people being this blank slate, not humans. And granted, I'm not going to be using my therapy with clients as like a way to work through my trauma if my trauma is like active.
Right.
That's something I should do in my time and my space. And I'm still a human being. And I think this shared experience, especially during the pandemic, of just like, I see you and I feel that, and it's hard, and like I'm doing the work too. It also just gives me a lot of compassion and respect for my clients, because I'm like, fuck yeah, this work is fucking hard. I'm doing it too. Like I get it.
Yeah.
I understand why you're so stuck.
Yeah. But it makes it more of a group effort.
Yeah, I think it creates empathy. It creates empathy on both sides completely, where you have the ability where it's like, I empathize with what my clients are going through, but at the same time, they don't feel so disconnected when you're like, oh yeah, I've gone through it too. I have been here and I have done the work, and I do acknowledge that it's hard. And then there's this essence of they get to have a shared empathy for you. Not that that's necessarily what it's about, but I see this kind of like sense of being alone in the journey, or, you know, only understanding with somebody else who's gone through it. And it's like that connection.
There's nothing worse
is really important
than a therapist going,
it's not the other,
that's
it's
weird.
not the guru, you know.
You know, or being like, I've never experienced that, or, you know, like, or nobody's ever experienced that. Like, that doesn't make anybody feel good. So somebody, you know, who has lived experience, and yeah, you can be like, oh, you're a product of all of this work. Like, that's aspirational. And then there were times where people broke their barriers.
Yeah, I was going to say the horse did come through my boundary. I would like to say that I didn't leave my boundary, which I was quite proud of. I still stayed within my square, but I let the horse come in because I was like, I'm not leaving. You're coming in. That's fine. And Nicoletta was like, that's interesting that you were able to be like, yeah, okay, you can actually break through my boundary now. I'm going to let this happen and sort of facilitate the horse coming through. And she put it into metaphors again.
Right.
And it was also like, sometimes
mean?
you do need to break your boundary or whatever. And like, sometimes you are more comfortable with the penalty for letting the horse come in was like running around the thing. And it's like, okay, I'd rather run around the thing
any day of the week
than move this horse with my body or whatever. And it's just another metaphor. It's like, okay, what are you willing to do? And like, are you going to be happy with that decision? And like, she was.
Yeah, I was more than happy, but there would definitely be some things where, if I don't know what the punishment was for a horse coming through, but there would definitely be moments where I'd be like, actually, I'm going to put everything into this horse because this is not worth it to me.
Right.
But it was interesting to, you know, learn that because I haven't really paid too much attention to the boundaries that I set. I just kind of assume that I've got them.
Yeah.
That whole punishment thing was really interesting of like, oh, you know, Nicoletta, like, should we have a consequence if you leave your little area?
And we all said yes.
Like, yeah, we totally should. And I'm like, you sadistic motherfuckers.
I
like,
know.
I don't know. How about we like let people make mistakes?
Yeah, I was
and
please.
yeah, let's make them run around the circle. And I'm like, that is not, I won't do that. Like, I have a bad knee and I don't run on sand. I don't run unless somebody's chasing me. Let's be clear. Like, I'm very confident that I cannot let a horse get by me. I am not at all confident that my knee can handle running around a fucking arena in sand.
Yeah, and so you won't.
And so you're stuck to your boundaries.
Like, you know, you put your boundaries, but seeing like how group processes come out and like the desire to be punitive and the desire to like have these kind of like shitty Schadenfreude-esque consequences.
I did also, the one girl that was next to me, she was not helping me at all. Like she could see that I was visibly terrified and my boundary was like huge, and she was just standing in her tiny little triangle watching me be shit scared. There was a gap between us that like this huge gap that the horse was definitely going to go through if it was coming there. And I found it quite interesting that was like her first inclination wasn't to be like, let me make my barrier bigger, but it's just like, you know, obviously like a reflection of all different types of people. You know, some people next to you are going to help you out. Like the one next to you, I think, was helping you out, and you guys were like chatting and being like, what should we do? Right. What's the go? But whereas the one next to me was like, nah, sorry, bud, you're on your own now.
Yeah, me and the other two women who were next to me, one of them was with Nicoletta at another farm. And I was like, you know what to do, right? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, tell those people to move back then. Because there were people at like making the barrier too small for the horses or whatever. Totally. And we were like, they're never going to make it around the other side. We have to start telling them or whatever. But yeah, I think it was a very interesting metaphor for like society and how people react, and the fact that like, I mean, I did want a consequence because I was like, I want to get this done, and people don't get things done unless there's consequences. And I was like, am I capitalist? Like,
I just wanted everyone to have fun and not be scared. Didn't go well for me.
But we needed all of us to make it happen. Yeah.
When you do the group work.
Yeah, very revealing.
But it was good.
But really good and really interesting. And then also very interesting was we had a past life regression with Danny.
Yes, with Danny Santos.
Which I was not thinking was going to be anything for me. I was like, I don't buy into, you know, like even though I am very woo-woo and like I'll go to psychics and stuff, I was just like, nothing's going to happen. And even when things were happening, I was like, this could just be like my imagination. But even in that, I was like, maybe my imagination is trying to tell me something. And so whatever it was at the end, like it was like reconcile with the things that you have quote unquote done in your past life and the people that you have been or whatever, and like forgive yourself. And I was like, yeah, you can just even forgive yourself for right now.
Yeah.
And I felt that so transformative. Did anything happen for you in the past life regression, and how did you feel going into it?
I have done past life regressions before, and so I was excited about it. I was a little bit distracted because it was cold.
So cold.
So I couldn't get like as deep as I'm normally pretty easily entrained and entranced. Like I'm a hypnosis person, and like I've been hypnotized many times. And so I was excited about it. I did go a couple of places, and that was cool. The place that I went I was a Venetian courtesan, which I had gotten from like a previous like ayahuasca journey that I was like, oh, that's a thing that I used to be. And so it was cool to kind of go back there and see different points of like, this was the life and this was the deathbed, and like how were things when you were about to die, and all of those kinds of recognitions and rememberings was really fucking cool. He's very talented. Like I'm excited to get to spend more time with him and hopefully do that in a warmer and more one-on-one setting.
Yeah.
What about you? What did you
go anywhere?
I feel like mine was just more, I was just very relaxed. I was just happy to be lying down and chilling. I didn't necessarily regress. The last time I did a past life regression, I was like a 30-year-old man with a wife and 2 kids living somewhere in Michigan. So I'm kind of content with that past life for now. But I think for me,
she's an American
in one way. I think that for me was just a really nice sort of time to just sit and reflect. And there were like moments where I would like glimpse into like almost, being falling deep enough. But yeah, no, there was nothing that was like lucid.
So for me, the first thing that he said, it was like he got us into the hypnosis and he was like, all right, now look down at your hands. They're so small. And I just pictured really small. I didn't picture child's hands. I pictured abnormally small hands. And I was like, what?
I think the TikTok hands?
Yeah, like those little TikTok hands that you put on your fingers. God. And I was like, I don't think I'm doing this regression right or whatever. And then he's like, you're so young. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm so young. And then I looked at my hands and they were little freckled child hands. And I was like, oh, I'm a little Irish girl and I live with my dad or whatever. And then trigger warning, my regressions got really dark. He was like, flash forward to like the end of your life or something like that. And I was under some ice. And I can't tell whether I went to the ice on purpose and like went under and like was trying to drown, or like it was an accident, but I also didn't fight it. But it was like this little Irish girl wanted to die. And then immediately when she did, felt so guilty for leaving her dad. Like I only had my dad. Yeah. And then the next time he was like, okay, now you're back. And like, where are you? And I was like really low to the ground and I was in like a wet forest. And I was like, I'm a fox. And I was like, also, I'm not good at being a fox. Like I was like so scared the whole time. And then it was like
Sweet
the end.
Fox.
Like it was a very short-lived little life as a fox. I think I got caught by a hawk or something. But it didn't work out. And then the next one was I was an Italian, like kind of like 30-year-old, maybe 35-year-old mom. And I had a son. And he was like, now flash forward to the end of your life. And I was on a cliff. And so I think I tried to kill myself there too. And I think I did as well, because the second I did, I felt bad for leaving my son. And whether these things actually happened or whether they're just things that came up in my head, because, I'll have ideations in my current life, it made me really ruminate on them. And those feelings of instant regret, I was like, oh, I don't want to do that this time, and I don't want to leave anybody this time. And then Danny had us all thump on our hearts. Yeah. And say like, I forgive myself, like not even like past me's, yes, like they feel so bad for leaving their people, but also forgive now me for even having those thoughts. And like he also said stuff like, now say I'm important or whatever, and I said I'm important.
Oh yeah, that one got me.
And it got me, but I also heard Robin saying it, and it made me feel really good because I was like, oh, she's here and she feels important. And if she feels important enough, then I should feel important because I know that she looks up to me in a way. And do you not anymore?
I do. Don't worry.
Okay. Don't want to assume.
I do.
And yeah.
No, you should feel important, you know, like everyone, I think everyone there was important, and
of course,
definitely hearing those people beside you saying it as well. It was kind of like you could hear everyone.
It's like, we're important and like, this is worth it. And that's like a lot of my existential dread comes from, I'm like, oh, people just suck. You know, like we're doing so much bad to the planet and like bad to ourselves or whatever. And it's like, it's nice to be able to think that we actually are important. And that there is a reason that we're here, even if we don't know what it is. Even if it's just to help out the other people who are here who are currently struggling. Like,
we are important and valuable and worthy just by virtue of being human.
100%.
Yeah. So I thought that was spooky, but also fun, and it really made me feel like, oh, this was the reason I was supposed to come to LA.
Yeah.
Because I have like really tough struggles thinking about that stuff. And it was just like, it like really like opened me up. And then, that forgiveness is like, okay, now I can really move forward.
That's huge. That's amazing. Really like a paradigm shifting.
Very proud of you.
Thank you.
Rock on. No, it's a huge shift to get out of that.
Yeah. I was also going to say with the boundary settings with the horses, like one of the things I've never wanted to do is cancel a show. Like that's always been like a hard ass boundary for me. But then I'm like, okay, but if COVID is on top of it, and if we're not fully comfortable, and if something feels off, then maybe it's time to move the boundary. And I think that was beneficial.
Yeah, I think so. Because, like we didn't want to, that was probably one of the last things we wanted to have to do. But I think that just the whole day we were able to see like the bigger
and if we hadn't posted the show poster, she wouldn't have known we were in LA. We would have never been able to experience this day.
Yeah. Mad.
Everything came together.
We came together.
We came together.
We did.
And then we did that nice little closing sound bath, which I thought was great. It was too cold.
It was freezing. I didn't have a jumper on.
Yeah.
I was wearing just a t-shirt.
Yeah. But the sound bath itself was top notch. Cool. I loved that they were in a triangle and all of the participants were in the middle. And so each person's sound was really like amplified by the others, and you were just getting it from all sides. And then Danny was coming through with the drum then with the chimes and bells. It was just so beautifully done.
So good. It felt like we were in like a little dome of sound.
Yeah. And like a astrological dome. You know, like when you're in like a, what's it called?
Geodesic.
Like an observatory?
Yeah, like an observatory.
Oh, like a planetarium?
Like a planetarium of sound.
Yeah.
You know, like you could hear the stars. You could hear the sky. It was like very like soothing.
Totally.
And we were in nature and we had all the like birds around us and the animals doing their thing as well.
And the peacocks.
Peacocks, yeah.
So
it was great.
Peacocks.
There were peacocks screaming.
And crows.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, it made us feel like super one with nature and just like in the right place to be, and like
it was a great way to end off, I think, such a like transformative day for a lot of people. It was just
well, I'm so happy that you guys were able to be there. I'm absolutely delighted that I got to spend time with you there and that we all got to share this experience together. Like, this is one of those things that you'll always remember.
Totally.
For sure. I've never done anything like
and
it.
And also, then we got rewarded because the next day we were all in Malibu and we saw the most transcendent sunset ever. And I was just thinking to myself the whole time, I was like, if we hadn't had this previous day, like, would I even have appreciated it so much?
Yeah. Before I wanted to like check in with my godmother who passed a couple years ago, and I was just like, how's she doing? And then her big thing is sunsets, and I put 2 and 2 together afterwards. And because like on the night that she died, we had the most beautiful sunset in Perth. And then before I took the sip and you guys are like, set you or whatever. But yeah, I just like, that was part of my intention, was like clarity, and also just like, how's she doing? And then the most beautiful sunset, I was like, okay, she's good. She's chill. Yeah, it's nice.
And my intention that I set for that day was peace, because everybody else was going around with intentions and stuff, and I always get so heady with it that I'm like, oh, everything is gonna line up career wise and romance and whatever, and everybody was just saying like, I want pleasure, I want happiness or whatever, and I was like, I want peace. And like, I never realized that I really just want peace or whatever. Yeah. And I had peace for that day. And then you had your tarot deck and you were like, before you leave, pull 3 cards or whatever. And it was like past, present, and future. And my future was peace.
Insane.
It was crazy.
Insane.
Magic is wild. It is insane. Absolutely wild.
Such a magical time for us to all just come together. But speaking of come, Ashley, you've already shared your first O story. Nicoletta, do you remember your first time coming?
I do. I don't know if I would say I remember my very first one, but I do remember my orgasms. They were, it's all relative, but I did figure out early on how to self-pleasure by using the fire pole at the park.
Hell nice. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I would hang on. We lived across from a park.
We just watched Bridget Jones last night when she does the fire pole scene.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Nicoletta. So I would hang on there for a long time. And then I remember my mom got me a back massager from Sharper Image for my horse related sore muscles. And that was the next thing. So I've been coming a long time. But I always thought I was a one and done person. And it wasn't until 2 years ago that I realized I could be multi-orgasmic and to really experience pleasure in different ways. And then another year after that, like learning squirting and other things. So like, yes, I would say the bodily response came more easily, but I'm still learning stuff and I'm still figuring stuff out. And it's a ride. I'm fucking on it. I wish it wasn't like a sex offense to go back to the park and do it now, because I do miss the pole
I think
and the exhibitionism of it. I know, but not everyone's there, and I'm like, no one knows what I'm doing.
You could put it in the middle of the ranch, and
I don't know. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Oh my gosh, I can tell you another one that you can do, but then everybody's going to know.
Okay, well, tell us. We have to share it. Don't gatekeep, girl boss.
Yeah. No. So it's so funny because I guess the first, which I didn't realize was an orgasm, was, and I forget what movie this came from, but climbing the rope in gym class. It might just be was that. It was a while ago. So that's it was just my movie of life. That was like prime time. So I remember I was having orgasms climbing the rope, and I've been having orgasms for a very long time. That I think was in 3rd grade.
Wait,
like 2nd or 3rd grade.
Are they? Is it because you're constricting your abs? Like when you do crunches, do you as well?
It's like a Kegel. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so that's what happens next is when you're going on point in ballet, they teach you to squeeze your Kegel muscle.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that you're squeezing it so tight to pull up through your spine and up through your center. And you've been squeezing it for a long time and you're holding it, that you just start to have orgasms. And then you do a lot of core work. And so I was just like, orgasmic since I was very young. And it's also the same, which I always find really interesting, is that it's the same energy that's used for creativity. So I also work with people who practice celibacy and they choose not to masturbate, not to have sex, not to do all these things. And so they have to have a lot of creative outlets in order to get that energy without feeling, any sort of anger, anxiety and things like that. But then, okay, so the one that came after that was in junior high. Do you guys know the machine that you like lift your legs?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're sitting like this.
Yeah,
and your legs are
like on
hanging.
your
And
elbows.
Robbie, have you had it this way?
I do know what
You
you're
know
going to
this
say. I
one?
haven't successfully, but I know what I know where you're going.
Yeah. So legs up or knees. I was just averaging like consistently right around like 52. And then I'd have like orgasm 3, 4, 5 around
3,
like
4,
60,
5?
70.
What?
So I would just, oh, honey.
Wait, so you're
like,
just coming
yes.
in ballet class, coming at the
Like-
gym.
Lisa's coming everywhere.
Yeah. And I
Lisa's whole
loved
life
it.
is coming.
Did you come during
I'm a
breath work
creative
with
being.
us?
It needs to get out all of the places.
Okay.
No, I didn't. But I wouldn't have been embarrassed to tell. I remember the first time I went to my tutor because I was in shock. And I was like, is anybody else
Yeah.
having orgasms in class? And she's like, yeah, it happens. And I was like, okay. And my teacher, she's like this little tiny, like 80-year-old Yoda woman. I mean, she's precious. And I was just like, oh God, you know, for as like boisterous as I am, like I have to go and talk to her about my orgasms and meditation. And I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be a yogi. I'm supposed to like, you know, be, and I'm
Wait,
just,
so
it's a part of it.
these are obviously
It's all of the
very
things,
quiet
you know?
orgasms.
Yes. Which is also makes it even more stimulating sometimes.
Because it's a secret.
Because I'm naturally very loud.
Okay.
You know, but like when I'm just by myself letting it go, like it's very loud what comes out of me.
Does
so
it
when
feel different when you're loud and alone?
Yes. Okay. It feels very different. It feels more kind of like,
yeah.
Yeah. Like very primal, very like waterfall-y.
And intentional.
Well, almost like unstoppable. Oh, you know, like there's nothing, like it's just like, wah! And then like the voice comes with it and like all the chakras are released. But then when I'm quiet and I'm acknowledging, like I'm very present with what's happening, I can feel it radiating. It's more of like an intense fire hose where it's just like, yeah.
I don't
Cool.
And do you still have multiple when you're doing it like solo, alone, loud? Or is multiple more when you're quiet?
I don't know. Maybe I just get a little lazy after because it's like the other one feels more like, oof, like it's like an orgasm workout sort of thing.
Yeah.
And when I'm just by myself and I'm present with myself, I say a lot of like affirmations while I'm orgasming. I don't normally think of anybody else. I'm usually like talking sexy to my pussy. Like I'm just like, you're so beautiful. Oh my God. Which I started maybe like 2 years ago, but that's been really beneficial in a different way.
Some people call that sex magic. But I think it's just, I think it's really great. The affirmation, like imagining, thinking about yourself and like coming about yourself is really promoting self-confidence for sure.
Totally. Yeah. Cause it's my sexual stuff. I don't know if you guys, you know, what I did with the kind of inner child and the adult and combining. For me, it's a bit of, because I have a lot of shadow work around my sexuality that I have to do. And so for me, that was kind of matching that kind of other that I saw and just building her up and being like, I see you and you're beautiful. And oh my God, you're going to give me this orgasm. And it was just like the words, the intention, the two fusing of the identities coming together and then the orgasm on top of it. You know, it was just it was great. It's fun. I like it.
What is shadow work?
Shadow work, I mean, in my opinion, it's kind of that aspect of ourselves that we want to reject. It's so there's a great kind of other meditation where you begin to materialize your shadow self, in particular, your sexual shadow self into a human form. I can tell you a little bit about mine.
Yeah, I would love to know about yours.
She essentially, when she started to kind of come into my visualization, she had a front thong that went up and it kind of split my labia. And then my clit was out and it was like, whoop. And she had like these very big hips but it's me. You imagine yourself.
Yeah.
And then I had black hair. And she was very, very quietly sensual, because I'm kind of a very, extroverted person when I speak and I'm in person. But yeah, and she has a name. Her name's Claire, and Claire. it's yeah. And Claire is this person who I have a relationship with, and I actually started dating her. So it's kind of like you begin to engage with something that you're pushing away. I always had a thing, I grew up in a religious family where you had to be chaste. Like if you were going to be pure and holy, says the crazy coming child, then you had to not have sex until you were married. Like this was considered bad. So everything that I was naturally enjoying and also energized me and gave me more creativity, I was repressing it in a certain way as well as demeaning it, which was a part of who I was.
Oh, being mean to Claire.
Being really mean to Claire. When Claire is a badass.
Yeah, she just wants to wear her front thong,
She wants her front thong. Yeah.
I bet she's coming from that front thong like all day.
Yeah. And then Claire also buys me gifts. So she will go on Amazon and send me lingerie that I would never buy myself. Like I buy it's like, cute. Ooh, La Perla, I'm so classy and sexy at the same time. And she's like, here's some leather. Like, have at it. And so now it's this fusion. That. Also, Nicoletta took me on one of the most amazing field trips ever. And I wore do you remember the leather piece I wore?
Oh, yeah, that was we went
that was from Claire.
It was like a kinky sex party. Wow, good gift from Claire.
Yeah.
I feel like Claire is like me when I'm high and I buy myself snacks and then I hide them for future me.
Yeah.
Is that Brenda? Is that Brenda?
Yeah.
It's great to get, together with them to talk about it. Say, I see you. You're great.
Yeah.
You're doing it.
Nicoletta, do you have any sex goals going into 2022 for yourself?
Yeah, I would say actually my sex goal is more like a life goal. I do feel like there's always more to learn with sex and intimacy with myself, but I'm really trying to embody the work that I've done in my sex life into my real life. So something I said recently to someone that I really liked was like, I want to treat the rest of my life like the way I would treat anal sex. And so I think in my
a lot of preparation, a lot of care, a lot of aftercare.
Well, and just listening to my body. So like if in sex, someone was trying to fuck me in the ass and there was pain, like I would probably try to stop right away and listen and not sit in that discomfort, versus in my life.
Assert that boundary.
Versus in my life, I tend to sometimes get into like the pain Olympics of like, how long can I withstand this uncomfortable thing? Because I can handle everything. I can take it all on. And I also think when it comes to sex, I'm really playful and creative and really leaning into pleasure, and sometimes even like not in a gross way, but like childlike in that curiosity and pleasure. And I've stopped doing that sometimes in my regular life and in my mental health work. And so I'd like to get more embodied to where I apply that to my day to day, and not just leave it for sex. And try to have that as more of my day-to-day lived experience, coming all day like front thong Claire,
Great. Well, now it's Lisa too.
Yeah, Lisa Claire.
Lisa's taking a page from Claire.
Well, I'm so grateful that we were able to attend this retreat. All of you three were so amazing, and it really taught me that I don't need to only travel because of work, but that if I do travel because of work, maybe something great will come out of it. And I really appreciate you coming on. This episode has been so fun. If you guys want to hear more, there's more on patreon.com/howcome. I don't know if you could tell, but these were 2 separate recordings that I edited together because I am magic. I am sex magic. But Ashley Manta, can you tell everybody where they can find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Canisexual, on my website, canisexual.com. That is like the portal to all the other things.
Amazing. Nicoletta, where can everybody find you online?
Well, firstly, thank you so much for coming to the event. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of you in the show, and to meet you in the flesh. You're even more amazing than your voice. And Robin, it was so great to meet you. And Lisa, I love you.
Yeah,
If you want to check out what I'm doing, you can listen to my podcast, Sluts and Scholars. Remy has a great episode on there as well.
Charlotte was on it too.
Oh, yes. And you can find me on Instagram at Sluts and Scholars, on Twitter at Sluts Scholars, or my personal one is Therapy with Nicoletta. And yeah, hope to see you there.
Amazing. We'll have to talk about sound baths another time because our time is up.
Yeah.
She does great sound baths too. And
and some more of those positions that could potentially.
Oh my gosh,
Get you off.
anytime.
yeah. Would you be open to coming back for a little Patreon action?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can do
Okay, so if you
all
have
sorts of
questions about
different
sound
things.
baths,
Yep.
or these
Amazing.
positions, write in and we'll get Lisa back on the internet.
Yeah. Any questions? And we can do all sorts of like little meditations that raise libido, that allow you to get to orgasms without touching. I love that kind of stuff. For me, it's the behavior. What can I do to make this happen? That's my big thing.
Totally. Thank you so much for being here. Have to ask you
thank
this
you guys.
question.
This is wonderful.
Of course. Did you finish?
Oh, multiple times. Yeah.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Love
Yes, I've got a huge soul boner right now.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for coming.
Love you.
Thanks for having me.
You guys are wonderful.
Thank you so much for coming. And we'll see you next time on How Come. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
It's not you, it's me. I try so hard to finish honestly. They say you'll know when you go all the way from A right down to O. Oh no, I think that I still got a ways to go. Oh, I'm sick of this and I have got to know. How come? How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna just.
I did ask Ashley if she finished, but I couldn't find it in the audio after a while. And this was a long fucking edit. But hey, you guys, welcome to the Marvel section. Did you enjoy your woo-woo and your ya-ya? That sounds like what kids call their privates. But yeah, so this episode was really fun, and I think you know what's going to happen in this Marvel section. I have a few free tickets available for some companions. So if you listened all the way here and you want to come to the show, the O Show Anniversary on Tuesday, hit me up, DM me, and I'll let you know if the tickets have gone already. Maybe you'll have to buy one, but not if you're the first one to get here. Or first three, actually. I have 3. All right. Love you guys. Hope to see you at the show.